You want the slowest that you can get. And it's actually still too fast because somehow you think that speed controller will give you the lowest speed, which is not true at all. Not true at all. After my practice, I would never buy speed controller ever in my life. Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. We're not making jewelry today, but we are talking how to make it better. Today we're talking about this tool, which I do have for 3 years now probably, and it kind of broke. I unscrew everything as well, which I will do in this video too, just to show you how cheap and not great it is. And I really don't know why we even have this in the market, to be honest. So I will talk about everything in this video. So this dude kind of broke on me a week ago. And you know, when you buy something, you do a big research about the tool, how it's working, how to work with that, what kind of engines you need for it as well. Because jewelry making in general is not cheap. We're always using supplies. It's like maintenance in your work. When you actually consider to buy a new tool in your studio, that's a big deal. You see a jeweler using some kind of tool to achieve some kind of action and you're like, okay, I need this one. It looks so easy to use. I was like on and off, buy or not 3 years ago. And I was doing quite a lot of research, what I need for this hammering attachment, that it would work for me. Because I knew that for this hammerhead, we need different engine to work with. And after some research, I discovered that I could use a speed controller, which is this guy. It looks so cheap, I know. Like it's even scratched so easily. It's just very cheap label on it. All of the plastic is just like, you hear from the sound. It's not great. You know, I was very shocked when I received it. So I discovered that I need this tool to attach to my engine and I could work with my hammerhead because everybody's like scaring you off a bit. You can't overspeed hammerhead attachment because it will just break. And it's quite easy to break it and it won't work, just the head itself, not even with small tiny top parts which we screw on. I have all top parts here. This box is like separate purchase as well, and you have to sand all the heads yourself as well. When everything is adding on, it's quite not small amount of money you have to spend that you could have this tool in your workplace. And you know, when it comes to tools, I'm very about instructions because you don't want to break anything. You're just, you know, kind of scared away of your own decisions. But we want long-term tools, so we need to have good instructions, how to use it, that it would be properly used and all of that, you know. So I was like a good worker. I was like, okay, we need speed controller. We will buy speed controller and we will test everything and it will be great because everybody is like setting so great with a hammer attachment. And you know, I tried it. I was so happy. I actually was so happy to finally have it in my workspace. I was like, yeah, now we will do some settings. It will be so great because I saw how beautifully people are working with hammerhead, how beautifully you can go around your stones and cover all with that metal and thicker metal as well. You know, it was so frustrating. And actually with the speed controller, you can't even achieve very slow speed, which doesn't even make sense in my head. The way it works, it's slowing down your engine itself, the power of it, that you couldn't overdo, right? So you put on some kind of speed you want to work with. I used to put just a bit and that's it. You want the slowest that you can get. And it's actually still too fast. And I have to announce that this video is sponsored by GRANDE, which is a big jewelry supply store where I'm buying a lot of my tools and supplies from. They have lots of different stuff and basically everything that you might need for your jewelry journey. And they're giving you a code with $20 off of your shipping price, so use it until we have it. Thank you, GRANDE, for sponsoring this video. And I was like, okay, how I supposed to work with that? And I tried it actually beating up the metal at first. If you don't angle it the way it should be, this thing you actually have to control a lot, and you actually have to get used to the tool and learn how to work with that. With a lot of tools, we have that for sure. So it's always frustrating actually to get a new tool because you know that you won't have a result at some point. As I understood after 3 years now, that I couldn't even have that result from the beginning point. So I kind of got used of the speed that it was giving me. So it was like, and it's always been stressful. I couldn't go very close to the top part as well because it used to hit too much. So I was making certain height with a hammering, very carefully angling. It took me so long to get used to that because the speed was too much. So it kind of wasn't my fault, but it never came to my head to try it just without that speed controller, because somehow you think that speed controller will give you the lowest speed, which is not true at all. Not true at all. But you know, universe has a way of talking, as I always say, and it leads you somewhere. So when it got broken a week ago, I was like, okay, then how I will set these stones I have in mind, because I had 2 projects and I needed a hammer attachment to work with that. You can do hammering by hand, which I used to do even when I had a hammer head attachment, because I was like, this is not working. I need slower pace work, you know, not that stressful, just to cover my stone how I want it. So I am pretty good with setting by hand as well. But hammering attachment give you advantage because you have one hand you're working with and you can cover the stone with your thumb as well. You can be in control as well when you're coming to a higher point of your setting as well. Plus, when you're doing that by hand, wait, I will show you. When you do that by hand, you actually have quite a lot of equipment in your both hands, right? So you have to be steady all the time as well. So it's not that comfortable sometimes when you have smaller piece to work with, because when you're setting smaller stones, let's say, and you have microscope to work with, these will get in the way and you either don't see anything because your microscope has to be in different level, or you will hit microscope at some point. So this thing I do recommend to have in your workspace for sure. Buy hammerhead attachments as well and try with your engine you already have. When this thing broke, I was like, okay, I still need to work with a hammerhead. I will try to push the pedal very slow and, you know, steady. I was still scared to work with my own engine without that, you know, third party involved, but actually I was like amazed. I was so slow. I could have that hitting so controlled. Of course, you have to get used to that too, because sometimes you want to push pedal more, but still you're pushing your pedal when you're drilling and you don't want to overspeed too, so you get used to using the pedal. So with this attachment, it's kind of the same as you would be drilling. The speed is not that low as you expect. After my practice, I would never buy speed controller ever in my life. And you know, universe has a way of talking and it just broke, and I just, you know, tried to use my own engine. I can use properly that hammer attachment, and all of the times I was like, okay, you know, it's just, maybe it's just me. You know, sometimes when you have problems, you always think like, okay, maybe it's just me. But actually, it wasn't me. You know, it wasn't me. So it was a wrong tool, and I really don't know why we still have that. Maybe mine is like some kind of false. Tell me if you have this tool. I bought this one from proper jewelry store in England, so I don't know, like, what happened to that? Tell me in the comments if you have something like this and you had the same issue, or maybe you haven't even tried to use hammerhead without this speed controller. Okay, let's open that together again, because I did open that before. I just wanted to know what's happened to it, you know? So it still can work, we can fix it. Some solder piece just needs to be resoldered again. And of course, don't do that at home if you don't know what you're doing. I actually called my friend who knows about these things. So yeah. Okay, I will show you how it looks like. So we have a box here. You see, like, even the inside looks quite cheap. So I don't know, I was very surprised in a bad way because I do love Foredom. I really do love. I have engine from them. I have hammering attachment from them. I have tumbler from them as well. I do have a lot of Foredom tools and I do love them. I do love them a lot, but not this guy. Like, yeah. We have all of that here, and we have to just fix that this part would work again. So actually this part broke. If you ask me if it's worth of investment just to have hammering head, for sure, it's worthy. It's very great tool. That's why everybody's actually using that. I haven't tried hammering with silversmith yet, so I'm still working with that and I really do love it. It's really nice, and if I skip all that speed controller nonsense I had, I really do recommend it. You can set various kind of stones, and even when it comes to corners as well, you have more control. You can work around it as well. It's really nice. It's nicer than to set it by hand as well. I do love setting by hand still, don't get me wrong. When it comes to bigger stones, I do love to set it like this, at least the first part, because when you have bigger stones, we have thicker metal, let's say. When you have strokes by hand, you actually have more strength to the hammering action. I don't know how to explain that, but when you hit it like this, your metal bends, right? When you have with hammering attachment and you come in bad angle, what it does to your metal, it actually like smushes it. I don't know how to say another word. You just actually like smush all that metal. It's like digging around and it's like making a mess there, but not actually bending the way you want. I do have a video how I'm setting by hand a turquoise stone, which they are very fragile, so it's kind of nice to start with hand hammering because you have more control when you start. When you have experience, you have more control with this one because you get used to the angles, you get used to what your eyes needs to see, and that angling and understanding how to bend the metal instead of just, you know, hitting and not doing anything, which will happen when you will start to do that, unless you are a pro as a beginner. But sometimes it happens. Maybe you will have more success than I did. With hand tools, you will always understand more. That's why I do have quite some skills, you know, when it comes to hand tools, because I started everything with hand tools because these are investments and, you know, you have to prepare for that. You need more years, I would say, just to understand what you need in your studio, what kind of jewelry you want to do. Always say, start with hand hammering. It will teach you the angles. It will teach you way more without breaking stones as well, because you can start lower on a setting when it comes to hammering like this, and when you're hammering you actually see if you bend the metal or not, and it's not getting like mushed together, like smushed everywhere. When it comes to hammerhead, it will be opposite, because you will see that smushing a lot, and if you don't have the thickness of the metal that you need, you kind of lose the thickness of it, and all that setting will get ruined pretty quickly if you are not careful. But when you learn to set by hand, you get to know the angles where you actually have to hit. And when you will switch to hammerhead like this, you will at least know with your eyes what kind of angle you should make. It won't be easy at the first go, for sure, but I would say you will get there quicker than you would be not having any experience with hand hammering. You know, I wasn't even ever ready to show how I work with hammering head because it was a mess. It was a mess, but I was still doing that because I was just controlling myself a lot. I got used to work with that kind of hitting action. And I was like, maybe I don't know how to use it. Maybe I have to turn this more or less. And I actually tried a lot to change, and it was still doing the same, that hitting. If you want me to show how I'm setting with hammering attachment, let me know in the comments. If you have questions as well, let me know in the comments. I hope I answered lots of your questions. If you are considering to buy this tool, or maybe you do have it, but you had the same feeling that I had, that it's not working for you, and you like came back to hand hammering again, I did a few stone settings after breaking my speed controller, so it actually works. I had a lot of practice just with the pedal and with the engine while working pretty slowly, and it gave me way better result immediately and more comfortable, more control with my hammer piece. And yeah, maybe you have advice as well how to use it better. Maybe you're using it different ways. I don't know, let me know, because you know, after 3 years it's kind of embarrassing to understand that you were doing all wrong. Well, it wasn't like all wrong. It was just like on quite big speed and making that experience way more stressful than it should be. But I was still doing that. So, you know. So I hope you liked it, and I will see you in my next one.